Go now to DryerBuzz.com and follow at DryerBuzz on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Hey guys, it's Yolanda at DryerBuzz, and of course DryerBuzz.com. And while you are listening right now on Facebook, be sure that you like our Facebook page. I'm going to ask you a quick and simple question about today's headlines. If you buzz it or if you bash it. If you buzz it, if you bash it. Put the word buzz in or put the word bash as we get to a particular topic. And of course, use any appropriate headline hashtags that we say or topic and so forth. I'm here getting to the desktop. I'm live each and every day, everywhere. Okay. And so we've just done a live stream, just kind of a chit chat live video while we were making our juice for those of us that are trying to do some things on that level. And let's see, you guys are gonna hear me tap. I'm gonna try and tap softly and lightly as I do this and invite some people in. And again, we're trying out the audio and it's still, I guess, I don't know if it's full on operational or if it's still beta testing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it will crash. If it does, we may or may not start back. I'm waiting here just a few minutes. I've got to be out. But I'm going to go through a couple of headlines today, and we'll get into a little bit of dialogue. As always, we welcome your input, and I'm basically reading the comments. You'll hear me read the comments, but if we do get this to a completion and we can actually save it, look for us to repurpose it and use it in a number of other places, namely as a podcast to listen and check out at DryerBuzz.com. Now, of course, everybody is all eyes on Houston, but we just diverted our eyes. Where did we divert our eyes from? We diverted our eyes from things that were happening in Charlotte and other cities and other controversial topics. And this is the amazing thing about America and politics and so forth. One thing will overconsume us, and then here comes the next thing that overconsumes us because most people follow by what's going on in the news cycle and the media cycle and so forth. And so what I want to talk about, I'm going to dip back for a minute because in Atlanta, and funny as I say this, as I get ready to talk about this, there's an article. I follow WABE, and as a matter of fact, you can hear me on WABE periodically talking about what the social media impact is to a lot of this, and how we come up with what we think and so forth. And usually if the social mob swims around, social mob goes around like a school of fish from one thing to the other. Now, if this does crash, we will come back depending on where we are in topic. But I'm looking at an article, the headline on WABE, Georgia seeks to be an example as Martin Luther King Jr. goes up at the state capitol. As soon as I touch my screen, I know that's going to go away. So let me go ahead and click on that. WABE is a trusted source. We're looking for something you trust. Okay, the statue doesn't look like Dr. King. That's the first buzz it or bash it. Harpo, who is that? And that's not to diss whoever they paid to do these statues. But you notice a lot, and I don't even know. Let's find out who did the statue before I go talk about it, okay? And of course, it was good to look out on the Capitol, over the Capitol, the area out over the Capitol, the steps of the Capitol, and see all of course, Dr. King's family and the dignitaries, and it never is it digestible looking at our Governor Deal along with Mayor Kasim Reed, those two together or even apart. It just does something. So glad we're getting ready to vote. Okay, but anyway. That's just, hey, that's the tone. Let's see. And they basically are saying the same thing I'm about to say. While communities grapple with how to handle monuments to Confederate leaders, a sculpture of Martin Luther King Jr. was unveiled on the grounds of the Georgia State Capitol on Monday. And that's pretty much the same thing we said at DryerBuzz.com when we asked you to buzz it or bash it. First of all, we said, who is that? And we're going to reimagine that Dr. King lived well beyond his years of 39 years old when he was assassinated trying to unite America. I don't know who this old man is. I mean, it just, okay, I'm looking at the picture. Y'all looking at the picture. Okay, but anyway, we're going to skip down to all the introduction and this, that, and the other. I want to see who did the statue. Who made the statue? Let's see. I'm looking. I don't see it. Who did the statue? Deal has said he expects the future of statues of Gordon, Confederate leaders, and segregationists is likely to be discussed during Georgia's legislative session next year. Since recent violence in Charlottesville, some Georgia lawmakers have called for the statues to be removed. And we can go back just a few decades ago. I remember as a young girl, and some of you are on here are my classmates. And one of the things, if you went to Atlanta public schools, or maybe if you went to other school systems, you would take a trip to the state capitol. And I remember my mother, before she signed that permission slip, and even the note she put on that permission slip said, don't send my daughter home with the remnants of Confederacy. And she gave me a speech I had to learn this, and I had to be assertive and aggressive in it to tell my teacher when you went to the Capitol, they gave you this bag of swag and goodies, right? And my mother said, you be sure to go in that bag and you pull out all the remnants of Confederacy. There was a sticker, where kids love stickers, but one of those stickers was the Confederate flag. And I was supposed to take off anything that's on that flag and put it in the trash. And I was supposed to tell all of my friends to do the same. And I was supposed to tell my teacher where she could go if she was to stop us from getting rid of all of this stuff from the Confederacy. Which, if you went anywhere near the Capitol and in the halls of the Capitol, apparently, I guess in the 70s this is going on, you would see, because it was very well represented in Georgia flag, which is why you see a lot of people running around here with the flag and why they want to hold on to this flag, because it used to be Georgia's flag, just like everybody else in the South, right? So, I would just never forget. And I remember before we got on the bus, giving my assertive and aggressive speech to my teacher, listen, I need to stop and throw this stuff away, because my mother said, don't bring this Confederacy back to our neighborhood. And I remember the teacher said, okay, and going through everybody's bag and pulling out there, and sure enough, there was a lot of Confederate symbols in our bag, which they gave to students from an all-black school. Okay, but anyway, that was taken care of. And not only that, and I in and of myself, I've had a neighbor who wanted to celebrate the remnants of the Confederacy. And I remember when we moved in, he came over and he said, listen, I don't want you to pay any attention to that. It's just history. It's just this. It don't mean nothing. And I told him some things that I'm going to do to recognize who I am, and don't you pay attention to it. It means a whole lot. I would never tell anybody any of my convictions don't mean nothing. You should never, my thing is, whatever your convictions are, stand on them. Never, I'm that person. I'm not making any apologies. I'm not making any bystanders comfortable. I'm not giving you any kind of disclaimers, and I'm certainly not going to give you any side effects. So if you don't like the side effects of hanging around me, don't hang around me, because I'm a child of the original woke folks, and so it rubs off. So I just remember that. And so if you were educated in the Atlanta school system or in Georgia, you remember going to the Capitol, and you remember seeing all these symbols of Confederacy. So the question becomes, because I'm reminded of some things that went on in the 70s that had to do with the Vietnam War and the assassination of Dr. King. Now, mind you, when Dr. King was assassinated, I was a mere toddler, but I don't remember much about it. I do remember the very heavy weightedness, almost of a darkness and a silence, because there's a lot about my childhood very early on that I do remember, because a lot of it was archived through photos and different things like that. In my house, my parents, my mother particularly, was very involved in the community. It's like everything that I've done, she did. And so I remember a lot of these conversations going on and happening around me. And we grew up in Southwest Atlanta, Northwest Atlanta. I grew up in Southwest Atlanta, educated Northwest Atlanta. So I've seen all sectors of life, classism, all of the economic status, and so forth. Know everybody. So I have a lot of opinions on that. And the thing about me is, I respect and lift up all voices. So I'm well enough, I can listen to all opinions, but I know to still have my own. And so my only bash it to this would be, if I were to buzz it or bash it, well, two, I'm one that don't look like Dr. King, but my real bash it to this is, even though it was something that was in the planning, even though, yes, we had another anniversary of the March on Washington, even though we go through these things, if you were to chronicle and pay attention or take note to everything that has happened, it would be something that we would think about. There should be something every day. There would be something on the calendar every day because there was so much happening. I felt like in the light of this, yes, it was planned. It seems like a tit for tat. And these things that went on in Charlottesville. I feel like even before they did this unveiling, there was some conversation. Well, maybe we ought to do this in Georgia. Maybe we ought to consider this in Georgia. I mean, hell, this is where Sherman and Lee had a major battle. They burnt down Atlanta all the way to the ocean, So naturally, we're always going to have that conversation about what happened here, slavery and there were plantations all over the place here and all those things. But at the same time, I feel like we keep coming to this place in America of an either or. Like it can't be, we all can't look at our history, regardless of what place you play in history. And I was invited on radio to kind of talk about the social mob in Charlottesville. And I said, the difference with this in all protests, and the difference between this and all protests is the intent. Most protests happen because people are trying to save lives. These people are kind of protesting because they want to end lives. They are protesting because they don't want people to have equality and equity of life. They're protesting because they don't want equity. Most people are protesting because they do want equity. So there's a different intent there. But does that mean that they can't have a statue? And my own, not only say my only, but my take on this is we want to almost, in essence, hide history or rewrite history as opposed to making sure that everybody has a full understanding of it. Now, I have a problem with that because that means that there is far greater possibility that we would repeat history. If you didn't drive by those Confederate symbols, because when I drive by some of these Confederate graveyards, and there's several of them around me, I am reminded of who I am and the victory that my life represents over those people in those Confederate graveyards. Okay, so I am reminded each and every day about the survival of God's great people who traveled across a middle passage and survived. Not only survived, but surpassed the American dream. I am reminded when I see that flag and the fact that it came down in Georgia, I'm reminded that almost immediately, before, during, and after slavery, that black people saw equity in each other. They sought to educate each other. I don't know where all of that went to this day, but that we led this nation in its dignity. We lead in all sectors of dignity that America is known for around the world. It oftentimes starts with the black American achievement in this country, which is why every protest out there, ain't nobody out there trying to model behind the white riots. They trying to model behind the black protest because one sought equity, one sought to dispel equity. And so there's a difference. And so, but does that mean, and I'm not, well, I guess I am, I'm buzz it or bash it. Do you really go around the country erasing history? Do you really go around the country trying to tear down every flag and bring down every statue? And then now for what that does is you got a generation out there that you have to tell every generation as a black woman in America, as black people, we have to tell every generation about the atrocities that happened to us in this country. And I don't want to compare it to anybody else's, but I'm saying, as black people, we have to tell every generation about the atrocities. Now, yes, that might involve your ancestors, okay? But, you have the opportunity, for those who are not black, have the opportunity to do something different than your ancestors. I just have to survive. I just have to make sure that I am always my ancestors' greatest dreams, right? I'm challenged with that. Not everybody black is challenged with that, and not everybody black is your kinfolk or your skinfolk and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying. So with that, with what's going on, and guys, I'm going to invite you over on my YouTube channel. Pearl Clay did a talk about I think somebody wants to change up, wanted to change up, going back and changing up words used in books like Mark Twain and some of the others. They want to go back to these books and take out the N word, regard whatever variations of it, and put in African American. But see, when I read my history books and I see the word African American, I then lose all sense of time. The perspective on time, because some of these things didn't happen to African Americans. African Americans was a word and a label that some black people decided to use in order to kind of distance themselves from their history. See, I ain't about whitewashing history. I ain't about being colorblind. I need to know that there was a time that we were Negro, colored, black, African American. One day my children are going to look at my birth certificate and they're going to see the end on there. And they're going to realize that their mother was born a Negro. And then came Black Power, and she became one of the strongest black women that they know. And, and sometimes I might use the word African American, but I'm just now going into the studies of Africa and embracing and learning more about that culture, because there's a gap and a wedge there as well. So, all of this stuff is dialogue that we need to have. My question to you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here, buzz it or bash it. What do you think about the Confederate symbols coming down, and then the timing of, and I'm not saying that Dr. Martin Luther King does not deserve a statue. I think he does, as well as many of them. I mean, I think, if you ask me, if you're going to place Dr. King, why not be respective of the trilogy? There's a trilogy in that, starting with Medgar Evers. It beyond the trilogy. I mean, but if you want to say a trilogy, why wouldn't you have Medgar Evers? Because when if you're going to celebrate the March on Washington, they went to the March on Washington. Medgar Evers, it was months after Medgar Evers had been assassinated. And then you had Dr. King and you had Malcolm X that represented three, not opposing, but three sides of our equity that we were seeking at that time. And then all of them were led and motivated by the works of A. Philip Randolph. Then you have Vernon Jones. I mean, it just keeps going on. Not to mention the women that did this. And a lot of people want to get out there and do civil rights, but they don't realize that these guys all were pastors. And one of the reasons they was pastors, because you couldn't have a good job and fight this fight. You couldn't go to work and fight this fight. It just wasn't happening. But a lot of these men, it was women that organized a lot of this. Where are those statues? And I hate that we have to, when we have one thing, we have to then, ask, where's this and that? But if we were to just kind of fill in a lot of these gaps, okay, then we wouldn't have to get to this saying, why just Dr. King? Why put up Dr. King's statue? Because timing is everything. You want the conservatives and the Confederates and all of them to be respectful of timing. What if we had just waited on this? Because what it does, it allows us, okay? It allows us to be used as a pawn in this monument battle, okay? And when we could have headed this off. And so now we're going into a weekend, and there's no telling what the temperature of the tinder boxes, that is many American cities, going to be this weekend. But, like when I think about, I'm going to tell you, honey, when I think about the March on Washington, I think about Merle Evers and how she mustered the strength. If you have not gone out here and used your social media or your Google to look up, and I posted it, I think I even posted it on DryerBuzz at the time. Let me see if I can pull it up. I want you guys to, I'm going to try and find it and post it on my social media. I'm going to do a search, March on Washington. I found one day in my own research, I do have it. Let me see. Where to watch. I have actually a couple of posts on there. Cool. Let me see. March on Washington. Oh, see, this is where I'm proud of myself. I'm going all the way back. I got several posts on the March on Washington, Clash of Dreams. And I even have a post out here called Divided We Stand on the March on Washington, Clash of the Dreams. That's when Glenn Beck tried to go up and do his own march. There was, Reclaim the Dream Rally, March on Washington. One of these, I posted the actual itinerary, the actual agenda of the day. I want you guys to go. I'm gonna find it. I'm not gonna find it while we're on here. Ooh, I got posts going all the way back 2011. I'm so proud of myself. The cut with that brother Tavis Smiley, Cornel West, going on their tour. Let me see. That was let's see. In Peace and Politics March. That's going on. Let's see. Black Women's Roundtable at the March on Women's History Month. Our church folk revolting. Man, I cracked myself up with some of these debates that we have had over the years. Let me see. I'm trying to see if I have it. But on this, there is a PDF, I believe it was. And see, even here, I talk about A. Philip Randolph. Let me see. There was a PDF that had the full-on itinerary of the day, and it talked about all of the speakers. And I remember reading through the list of speakers, and I saw that Myrlie Evers Williams, spoke that day, and I was like, wow, how did she muster the strength? Because she had just witnessed her husband's death just months before, and he didn't die a normal day. He was assassinated in their driveway, where she then had to shield her children, not knowing. See, we never think beyond a moment, shield her children, and then not knowing that these people were going to come back for her or her children, and I think a lot of the reasons why we have not, and this is probably one of the things I like that Bernice King does, is bring her mother more into the fold of this. If anything, I can say, I like that she does it, and I wish that we would bring more women into the fold. I was at the SCLC convention one time, and Dick Gregory, rest his soul, Jesse Jackson, and some third wheel, and I call him a third wheel, whoever this other person was, they were on the stage speaking, and I asked a question about why aren't there more women brought into the fold of this thing. And that third wheel told me, get your own organization. And Jesse Jackson looked at him like, man, what's wrong with you? Which is probably why he's a third wheel running behind them, trying to get some shine. And I guarantee they won't put him on stage anymore. But that was his response, that women should get their own. I told him, women, first of all, women got their own organizations. And not only that, women organize this one, okay? I'm just letting you know. So I'm looking and looking. I might just have to go and get that. I know I have it out here. Is that it? Okay, yeah. There's an embed on there, but that's not it. So again, a lot of you guys are checking out this audio, and I'm going to meet you guys in the text, in the chat, in the conversation. And go over to DryerBuzz.com and check it out. Buzz it or bash it. As Confederate monuments come down and that battle ensues, what do you think about this statue of MLK going up in Georgia? What do you think? Are we erasing history by removing these statues? Is there a proper place for them now as we go on into history? Should we have a museum that chronicles that time period, and I mean not just one side of it, but really, really, truly what happened, what went on, because the history books don't tell it all and don't tell it right, and we are, as you already know, we're losing so many voices of that day, of those days, to tell us and to help us to get this right. So if we're not just tearing them down, I think that we should really have the conversations that we need to have. And we're so blessed here in Georgia, because I always say Atlanta was a place where civil rights came to retire. And I mean, for us to have I had amazing conversation with C.T. Vivian. That brother is always willing to tell you any and everything that he knows. And just here in this city, we have access to so many wonderful people who were lieutenants and who, more than march. A lot of people like to say they marched with Dr. King. We have a lot of people here who more than marched with Dr. King, was really on the battlefield with him and even before him. A lot of people forget, Dr. King stepped in the shoes of others And these were young people. And even today, I don't know why people have a hard time today respecting the opinions and the involvement of young people, because it's always been young people to get this thing done. Because I'm telling you, at 50, I kind of want to go sit down somewhere. But we all got to make sure, it's 4 o'clock, time to go. We all got to make sure that we point into somebody else. So buzz it or bash it. Check the title, check the hashtags, and meet me at DryerBuzz.com. And in the comments, let me know, do you buzz it or bash it? Is this the proper way to tell this old story of history in the new? All right, y'all, have a great day. Yolanda at DryerBuzz and DryerBuzz.com.
Go now to DryerBuzz.com and follow at DryerBuzz on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
You are definitely a spiritually filled, thinking woman, and that is what we've been lacking in our community.
Go now to DryerBuzz.com and follow at DryerBuzz on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. It's